Have you ever considered that your physical health affects your business health? Today, Chaz and I sit down with our guests to discuss sleep, nutrition, daily tasks, and how they affect your business. Stay tuned for more. Get ready to improve your mindset, increase your skill set, and expand your network. Follow along as the CEO of Master Networks brings you over a decade of business networking experience. Welcome to Word of Mouth with Chaz Wilson. So I know that you have started a new workout routine recently.
Yeah.
What does that look like for you?
Yeah, so I've shared on a couple of episodes that I was feeling. First of all, let me tell you why, and I'll share with it and what this has to do with business. But I was feeling personally that I was at a weight that wasn't comfortable. I didn't feel good, and so that translates into every day of my life and what I'm doing. But what I did is I reached out to a guy. I saw him post. He's been on a previous episode of my old podcast. But he posted a picture turning 54 years old, and he was like in phenomenal shape. And I was like, my gosh. So I just reached out to him. I was like, I want to know exactly what you're doing.
What he does, yeah.
Yeah, why? Like that's what we teach, right? Find somebody who is or has been where you want to be. So I reached out to him and I just said, okay, don't tell me like theory. I don't want to know, well, I'm on this diet or that. I want to know, when do you wake up? When do you eat? Are you fasting? What workout routine are you doing and everything? And so I just started that, and I've been about 6 weeks. I'm down 10 pounds, but I know I've gained muscle too. So I don't know exactly how much I've lost, but 10 pounds. So, but the energy's different. Like I just feel so much better day in and day out. And that translates to productivity, which leads to a great transition to our guest today. We're fortunate to have Kelli McCamy, who's an integrative health coach and a member of Master Networks in the Texas North region. So Kelli, welcome to Word of Mouth.
Hey, Kelli.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
So Kelli, you heard me talking just a little bit about my recent journey of focused on my health. But before we jump into what you do and what you suggest for business owners, what is an integrative health coach?
Integrative really just means that there's way more to taking your health to the next level. Usually when we think of improving our health, whatever that looks like for you, there's way more to it than just the food that you're eating or the exercise routine that you're doing. Having good health, there's so many, it's a circle of life, as I call it. And your circle of life has to do with your good health. And so there's a lot of different things that you want to focus on. So I talk a lot about primary food and secondary food. When people hear primary food, they normally think, okay, that's what I'm eating. But no, your primary food is everything that you're not putting in your mouth. That is your career, your finances, your spiritual life.
Interesting.
A whole lot of other things.
So it's really balancing, I think, all of the different components of life. And so when you say you're talking like, does that bring into like stress and other things like that? Is that what you mean?
Absolutely. In fact, that is such a good point. Stress and also your sleep, the quality of sleep you're getting, they're two separate things, but a lot of times they go together. That's probably the single thing that has more impact, negative impact can be on your health than anything else.
I would agree. That's actually something I've struggled with for a long time. Well, I say struggled, meaning I've been able to function.
Okay.
Let's just use it as a baseline function. I've been able to function with pretty minimal sleep compared to a lot of other people. Like that's just, I can stay up late, 1 o'clock and get up at 6, like just and be fine.
I'm the exact opposite.
Really? Like how many hours is ideal for you?
Ideal? 12.
Okay.
No, realistically,
No, I mean, I know people who sleep like 11, 12 hours.
Solid 8 hours of sleep. Otherwise, I will drag the next day.
Yeah.
I cannot function off of a couple hours.
Yeah, sleep is so important.
And I think, Chaz, you brought up a good point that you've found that you can function, okay?
Right.
And yeah, you can for a period of time. We all have to do what we have to do at certain times, but I think the key there is long-term health and what's the best sleep for your long-term. And there is so much research, documented research and studies out there on your long-term health and how you can literally take years off your life or add years to your life simply by getting enough sleep.
Let's stay on sleep for just a second, because I'll tell you how I kind of discovered. I mean, I would hear people, I think as entrepreneurs, we sort of, and business leaders, we kind of wear it like a badge of honor on occasion. People do. They say, well, yeah, I'm hustling all the time. I'm running crazy.
I've heard it, yeah.
Right? I only sleep 4 hours. First of all, if you're sleeping only 4 hours or 5 hours consistently on an ongoing basis, I've always thought like that's one of two things. You're either lying, right? Or you're like some freak of nature that just is like. So I was functioning, as I said, but then I remember one day kind of going through some activities. I don't remember what it was, and just feeling like I was dragging. And then the next day, like my body just forced me, just said, you're going to sleep much longer. And I went to bed early. I slept like 12 hours to your point. And I got up the next day and I was so re-energized, so focused. Then I went, holy smokes, like it made such a difference. But I had never stopped really to slow down to do that.
How long have you functioned off of a handful of hours?
Oh my gosh, for years I would do it. And then like maybe one weekend day I would sleep, and then it would throw me off and I would.
No, yeah, I can imagine.
So,
and there's also studies out there, because what you're saying, Chaz, is that one day where you would just sleep, you go to bed early and you would feel like you got caught up. There's studies out there that say there's no such thing as getting catch up. Once you get behind, you can't do it. So that's we're all going to have those times that we have to do what we do and miss some quality sleep. But as a rule, one of the markers on or a test that you can tell if you're getting enough sleep is simply, how do you feel when you wake up? So when you slept that 11 or 12 hours getting caught up, you felt great. So that told you that you got enough sleep. But every day when you wake up, are you waking up alert and energized and ready to hit the day running, and have that clarity and that productivity? And if not, then you're probably not getting enough sleep.
Do you find that getting too much sleep can make you feel just as bad?
I was just going to say that I think sometimes getting too much sleep, like if I've done that, I start to drag as well. Like there's a sweet spot for me for sure in there. Trying to, sleep too long, and then I just get into this lazy dragging routine.
Yeah, I agree. And you know what? Everybody's different. So when you say for me, that is so key, is what works for one person. Now, everybody does need to have quality sleep, but some people might function better on 7 than 8 hours, or 6.5 than 7.5. And so you really do have to pay attention and learn how to stay in tune with your body to know what's best for you and where you function the best.
Do you think we're born with that, or is it like a learned behavior over years of getting into a routine? Because I'm not sure. I've been thinking about that.
Yeah, I don't know. That's interesting. I mean, I think some of it becomes just surroundings and how you function. And probably, to be honest, and this may go to another point, Kelly, you could jump in on this. I think it has to do with that whole circle of life thing you were talking about. Like, if my nutrition is really dialed in, then I don't think, like, I find if I'm not eating well and I'm really eating pretty garbage food, then I feel like I have to sleep 11, 12 hours. Like, it's just,
that's a good point.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, everything plays into how you feel, your stress levels. You can have high stress levels and be getting great sleep. So normally they go together, because if you're stressed, whatever is causing you to have high stress levels, usually you're not going to be sleeping well either. I know I'm like that.
Yeah, and a lot of people then use sleep aids and others to try to go to sleep, which anytime I've ever done that, which isn't often, I've not needed what? That's me. Oh, you need sleep aids? Producer Katie in here, she's like, sleep aids. Yeah, some of my kids do too, right? But I've also found that I don't sleep very well, personally, if I take that. It may help me fall asleep, but I don't sleep very well. But let's transition this, because we've talked a lot about sleep, which interesting. But what does all of this health have to do with as a business owner? Why is this important, and how does it show up, Kelly? What do you think for business owners and business leaders?
It's crucial, and there's a big part of my practice where I do a health history with all my potential clients and find out what their goals are. But I dive in and get a lot of information about their career and their business. And a lot of times, and then when I have the very first coaching session with someone, I will have them rate themselves in all the different areas of their life. And if they rate themselves with a 5, usually like a 7 or less on career or business, then we talk about that, and because that's going to have a huge impact on their health. And sometimes people are, I ask them, do you love what you do? You have to love what you do. That's key. And some people started out loving what they've done and they've lost that love. So a lot of times you just have to figure out how to reignite that passion. And often enough, it's because they're working too much and they're out of balance in all those other areas of life, and they're putting too much focus on their career, so they've lost that passion. So it is so important for your own personal health to have a healthy business and a healthy business life.
All right, a couple thoughts that I want to unpack out of what you just said. What's important is the mental, and it is very much that circle, that balance, because the mental and emotional piece goes into the physical being, that physical health. So for example, I can think back to years when business was incredibly stressful, especially like when in like 2009 and 10, when the market started to go down really hard, it became very stressful. And so, you're stressed, cortisol levels go up, you can't sleep. And so then you don't eat well, you don't feel good. Like all of those things just play in together. And it's interesting, again, not that I want to go too far down this path, but it is an interesting thought, because I found, and I was talking to somebody else about this recently, with all the COVID stuff going on, we do know that one of the leading, they can already track this, and pretty early on knew that diabetes and poor health were some of the biggest factors of whether COVID would affect you greater than somebody else. And so I found it interesting that the narrative in the discussion, Kelly, isn't about getting in better health. It's just more about the treatments, or what medications work and don't work, or what vaccine, if it works or it doesn't. It's all of that. It's not about, hey, take vitamins, eat well, sleep well, all of those things, right?
Oh yeah, you've definitely hit on. I could just totally get on a soapbox here on all of this, because it's so true. We get so focused on all of those things you mentioned, when if we just focused on us and focus on, what can we do to maybe slow down and not be working those 14, 16-hour days, because when you're doing that, you will burn out. You will lose the love for what you're doing. You will not make the gym a priority or your exercise a priority. You will be grabbing fast food more. It all plays in. You'll be, not as active in your church or your spiritual life. And so if you're too focused one place, something has to give. And it is all about that balance.
In our job and our business, productivity is so important. We come up with all these strategies to be more productive. Hey, let's look at the work environment. Let's look at, our schedules and time block. And yet one of the things we don't often talk about is our physical, mental, and emotional health that leads to the productivity. So for example, one of the things that I did, we talked about sleep, but one of the things that I really had to do was train and change my nutritional plan.
Gotcha.
So for example, I was getting advice and reading things that weren't working for me based on, to Kelly's point, all the different dynamics, right? So for example, if I'm lifting a lot of weights, I need to add additional protein to my diet to get the results that I wanted, because I'm lifting a lot of weight. And I've found that for me, that getting the sleep, the nutrition, and the physical exercise, and there's one more I'll talk about here in a second, those 3 of the 4 things really dialed in. My productivity has gone way up, because the 4th one is that mental clarity. To lead to the stress piece, I know so many business owners who are so stressed, and business leaders, they're so stressed that at the end of the day, they literally can't go to sleep because their mind is just never stopping.
It won't shut down.
And I have that challenge a little bit too, but it's gotten easier as business gets more productive, as you leverage out things and you learn to delegate and give responsibility, you can let that go. So Kelli, what are like 3 tips for a business owner that you could give that you think really would help them in the, whether it be physical, mental, emotional well-being to help them be more productive in their business?
My first tip would be to rate themselves in all the different areas of their life. And even in the area of like home cooking, how much do you eat at home versus, takeout? So I have 12 different areas that I ask people to rate in, but pick whatever areas of your life that you want and rate yourself, and then pick 3 of those areas that you really want to work on, and then set 2-week goals. Take it 2 weeks at a time, and set a 2-week goal in each one of those 3 areas, and do that for the first month or 6-week period, and then revisit that circle of life, so to speak, and then you might want to take some other areas. But the other tip is there's no such thing as perfect diet, perfect health,
right?
Perfect life. We think that we see that on social media out of some people, but I can guarantee you there's no such thing. No one has that.
Yeah.
So it's just a journey. And so you just want to take it like you do any journey, just one step at a time, and then revisit it and look at what's going good and celebrate what's going good. You do want to look back and see how far you've come and celebrate that, and then say, okay, where else can I improve? And just take baby steps, I think. And there's what works for one person. Don't compare yourself to others, because just because Chaz is working out with more weights and he found somebody that was doing something that worked for him, I could do that exact same thing, and chances are it's not going to work for me. So find out what will work for you, and don't compare yourself to others.
So just a thought when it comes to, I just want to touch on for a second the nutritional piece. I heard this analogy, and so I've heard, we all know, hey, get sleep, eat well, exercise. Like these are all things that we've heard. There's none of that's earth shattering. But I heard something once that really changed my perspective. It wasn't that long ago. Because as I started to look at like the nutrition piece, some of the thoughts that went through my head, and I'm sure others, and Kelli, you probably hear this a lot, is like, well, to eat healthy costs more. It's more work. It's et cetera. And that's true. Like that is some truth to that. But I imagine for a second, your business was you owned like some prized thoroughbred horses, like race horses. That's your business, right? Would you feed them?
Absolutely.
And what would you feed them? These are $1 million racehorses, right? Like you'd feed them top of the line food, right?
Yeah.
And you'd make sure they got exercise, and you ran them, and you made sure when you look at what they do with these horses, and like they don't even put them in with other horses because of potential, disease that could get caught, catch diseases, et cetera. And I remember like listening to this analogy, and then the person sharing it said, you're that $1 million racehorse. That's you. Because you're the business owner, you're the business leader, you're the productivity piece. Why would you not treat yourself the same way? And so then I hear this, and I have a discussion with a friend of mine, and we're talking about this, and I share that with him. He goes, oh, that's crap. I eat whatever. It doesn't matter. Like, and I'm listening to him like, okay. No, it totally makes sense, right?
So, Chad, that's so interesting that you brought that up, because that is me. That is my background. I was in the horse business for 30 years. And that is actually, and I get asked the question all the time, how did you train, what is your journey from a horse business to now a health coach? And it was because I was dealing with high-end horses, lots of money at stake, and raising them, showing them, training them. And I had the opportunity to sit down with an equine nutritionist. And that totally changed my life, totally changed my perspective. And that is exactly the same analogy. After I saw that equine nutritionist, we totally changed how we were feeding our horses, our brood mares. And over about a 5-year span, I saw firsthand what it did in these horses. That what we were saying was they were genetically predisposed, and so they had that health issue or that joint problem because of genetics. it was all nutrition, or it was, I would say 80% nutrition when we were saying it was 80% genetics, and that's just the way it is. We do the same thing as humans. We blame a lot on genetics, and I'm not saying that that's not a part of it, but there's so much nutritionally that we can do. And as far as the cost goes, I think I just had this conversation yesterday with a potential client, and he was telling me how he held up a little box about that big, and how he spent $4 trying to be healthy and buy a healthy snack. And it was something to do with almonds. And he said, but that cost me $4 when I could have just grabbed a candy bar cheaper or whatever.
Right.
And I said, yeah, but you can buy a whole big bag of cherries for $5 and they last you all week, and you would have gotten even more nutrition. And I just used the cherries as an example. So it doesn't always have to cost more. We just have to plan maybe a little bit better and figure out what we love and figure out what you love to eat, and then eat that instead. And don't make your list of, oh, I can't have that. What can you have, and what do you love? And let's crowd those other things out.
And I started to look at what did it cost me by choosing the less expensive option. Like, what did it actually cost me in lost productivity, lost health, lost time, whatever, because I didn't feel well.
Right. Take the money out of the equation.
Yeah. But how weird I used the horse example.
I know. I was thinking that too.
Like, it's so crazy. Kelli, really valuable information. Any last things that you would give to a business leader, business owner, somebody who's, especially when we have a lot of people that watch our podcast and listen who are, running a business, maybe have a couple of children that they're also like, there's the business life and the personal life. And that's like, you finish job one, now you go home and you got job two kind of thing. Second shift, that requires a lot of focus, a lot of energy to be productive throughout the entire day. What other tips might you have for them?
That's actually my target, is working with busy business professionals. And what I've found is so often they won't take steps towards better health because they feel like they don't have the time. So no matter how busy you are, or how busy you are with your family, just ask yourself the question, how would I rate myself, or rate my health on a scale of 1 to 10? How do I rate my family's health? And if it's not at least an 8, then, and again, there's never a perfect 10, but if you're not like totally happy with your health, then you can't afford, like you were saying, Chaz, you can't afford not to do something. So take some simple steps. Just identify one area that you can work on today. Don't be overwhelmed by everything out there that's being said, or with this fad diet or that, but just focus on you. Take one simple step. Get an accountability partner. I think that's probably key. Is if you want to focus on your exercise, then get an exercise partner and hold yourselves accountable. If you want to focus on just making healthier lifestyle choices, then get that accountability partner. Check in with them once a week, text message once a day, something, and hold each other accountable. And you'll be helping somebody else out as well.
It's really good advice, and I've found, and I'm not where I want to be. Like, I haven't reached the goals that I want to achieve, but I found there are simple steps. And I think if you try to take the whole approach, it can be overwhelming. But if you can take some simple steps that lead into, whether you're eating better, and again, it's more about constant improvement than perfection, right? It's just consistently improving that process.
And it's to Kelly's point earlier that it's one day at a time.
Yeah. And Chaz, that parallels and aligns with our business life. We say that in business all the time. Just get started and do something. Do one thing positive today. You don't even have to have the whole plan laid out, because chances are if you do, it's going to change anyway. So just what can I do today to move my business forward? It's the same thing. What can I do today to move my health in the positive direction?
So good, Kelli. Thank you. Hey, before we end this episode, let's go to Katie for our question of the day for this episode. Katie, what's the question?
Are you more of a morning person or a night owl, and why?
I bet I know yours, but go ahead.
I feel like it can be either. I don't know if I lean one way or the other. If I need to be up early in the morning, then I can be a morning person, or I could stay up all night and sleep all day. So I don't know if I have a preference.
Yeah. Kelly, morning person or night?
Definitely morning person. And the reason why is my dad. My dad, by the way, is 95 or about to be 95. September.
Wow.
Celebrating his 95th birthday, and he is my mentor, and I've just watched him, all of his career. He was in the oil business, and he was at the office by 5 o'clock every morning. I mean, at the office, downtown Dallas at 5 o'clock every morning. And I look at him today, he uses a computer. He gets up every day still at 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock, and he's on that computer, keeping his brain sharp and checking oil prices. I mean, he's retires. I mean, he doesn't have to do anything, but he programmed himself that way. And so, and I just saw that example. And so I followed after that, and I saw how productive he was by 9 o'clock every morning. Most people, he did more between 5 o'clock and 9 o'clock than a lot of people do an entire day. And so I'm definitely a morning person, and that's why.
So this is what's interesting about this. We've had this conversation before, and I'm not saying anything I shouldn't, but my wife is a night person and I'm a morning person. So that has created some conflict a little bit, in the sense that she is 12:30, 1 o'clock, 1:30, whatever, and then sleeps, and I am up by like 5:30, 6:30, whatever, depending on the day. And so that's where my routine was: go to bed at 1, get up at 6 kind of thing. And so I'm definitely more of a morning person for sure.